Hi all and welcome what will be the final part, which is in three parts, of tonight's show, What About Us? Like I said, this is a global message, but it also applies to our own members and our own listeners and me also. There was a question that came up last week. What is human? Strange question to ask under normal circumstances, but these are not normal circumstances, are they? But can it be defined? What have we done to define it? With the varying cultures, most of which was created for us. All of them in some way are exclusive, not inclusive, riddled with errant ways, masks, false history and false present. Each culture presented with an image, yet none are free, and all conform to some ancient book or rituals passed down by the dark forces. I've covered most cultures and people around the world, and by and large not put them in a good light as a whole. Why? Do I really have to answer that question? You can all see why, but many refuse to face the reality. A world riddled in poverty, a world where the many don't have the basics in life, many people labelled as savages or third world without understanding the connotations of what's been said. The Western world, riddled in greed, overindulgence and falsehoods. And if you want to see real savages, look at social media, particularly in the West. People riddled with insecurity, bitterness, sniping at each other, inflammatory comments or posts designed to get them likes or comments, all laden with drama with the intent of projecting their own failures onto other people. Be it their friends, family, social media friends, the government, the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminati, the Order, plus some even blame the off-world. And that's the top and bottom line of it. Truth becomes a byword to the low self-esteem, the insecure, and the vessels riddled with a malignant venom of their own making. Their lives are shit, dark and devoid of humanity, because the truth hurts them so much. Because what comes with truth is personal responsibility, which is a no-no for far too many on this planet, whether awake or asleep. As I stated earlier, people who are intent on making others accountable, yet neglect their own accountability or being accountable as well. Social media is riddled with it. Most people walk past or step over the homeless in the street because they're seen as lesser people. But they're no different to you or I. But with the comparative and competitive mindset, they are seen as lesser people, which is no different to the working class frowning on people who are on benefits, no different to the middle class frowning on the working class, no different to the upper class frowning on the middle class, no different of the elites frowning upon the upper class, and no difference for the order frowning on the elite families. And it's no different to the former trustee frowning on us all. Nobody told us to do that. We just did it. How many people in the world genuinely care that 900,000 children go missing in America each year? 49,000 children die each day. 1.3 billion have no electricity. 1 billion have no clean water. And over 3 billion don't have a decent home. Yes, our members have heard about it. But did your life change because of it? Did it cause you to be more grateful of what you have, not what you haven't? The People's Club donations sent a package of food basics, medicine and child essentials to a small village in Venezuela after their country was ransacked by the same clowns running and ruining this country. It was a small gesture. It didn't require much funding and was a godsend to that village. Much can be done with little. Yet people feel you need a lot to do much. It's the mindset. You have lawyers charging $200 to $300 an hour to read or write crap. People charging thousands of dollars for consultations and $1,000 for fake presentations. I heard one story of someone charging $75,000 for that line of work recently. That's 3 years' pay for the average service worker in this country. Yet $75,000 can feed a whole village for a year in most cases. It's all about perspective. Examples in New Age style social media people presenting themselves as spiritualists, then charging $200 to $400 to hear one line of kumbaya bullshit after another. We've got one member in our group who charges people $2,000 to meet and greet him. It beggars belief. Goddess this, angel that, star seeds like they're the only ones who came from the stars. We all did. The arrogance is astounding. We had millions of love and light people in the late 60s. Did the world become a better place? No. We have billions extolling the virtue of the church, religion and God, all praying for salvation. Has the world changed with that program? No. It has turned this planet into a war zone. So neither of them programs worked to bring a better world. Why? Because it was all fake, is why. Only those in denial would repeat those programs and expect them to work. Many are still asking for a 2,000-year-old dead man to become a zombie and return to save them. It's madness. Ignoring the fact of that, why would he want to come back? The people all ignored him and left him to die 2,000 years ago. Is that harsh? Yes, but it's the truth. The people never saved him then. What chance would he have now with a baying mob of internet warriors who believe everything except when it comes to the truth? I could give and spend the whole show on what is wrong and how we are responsible for that wrong. And yes, many will point out it is the government, the agencies, the Illuminati who have done this to us all. That is the lie, or at best partially true. We are them and they are us. It's the mirror again. But reality bites, as most was done by us, due to a lack of care for our fellow men, women and children. And failing to address that leads to what we have now, a free-for-all in chaos, confusion, anger, bitterness, envy, and riddled in the worst malignancy of humanity, the self. What is human? Do you know? What lies beyond our own self-entitled bubble world? Do you see? Do you feel? Do you sense? Do you have real empathy? And the kicker, do you care? Words often lie. Words have spells. Most of us are oblivious to, but the devious amongst us. But actions don't. In this current time-space vibration, those lies, hidden agendas, masks, projections don't work too well, do they? All of it being exposed on a massive scale, on every single level. And what you see is very ugly, no matter where you're from. The reason being is most people on this planet are fake. We've used fake avatars of ourselves. That's the reality, the mask. Yes, many pretend to be all love and light, throwing out love emojis and memes, but inside, they're far from it. And if that wasn't a correct assessment, the world would be a much better place, would it not? Clearly it's not. All can see that now, whether awake or not. The letter addressed to the top order on this planet was stark in its condemnation of their inability to follow a simple plan and look after the treasures that belong to us all. But if you paid attention and listened closely, that letter could well have been addressed to us all as well. Some of our members recognise that fact. You see, we are no different on every level of society, in every class of society, in every culture of society, in every religion, colour or gender of society. The letter was no different to the Cassandra letter addressed to the alt media. None whatsoever. Now you can all ignore that, and humanity is adept at ignoring things, both externally and internally, or face reality and the brutal truth. We have failed as a collective of what it means to be human, me included. I'm no different. Once a problem is established and the finger pointing away from you stops, then it becomes about solutions to fixing the problem. There is much hope as well as many are now starting to act in better ways, using their energy to improve things for the all, not just the self. In our own group, there are many wonderful examples of people accepting their own responsibility and striving to improve themselves and working towards helping others. I won't list them, as we still have comparative mindset people within and outside the group crying about favouritism. The problem is not that they are favourites. The problem is you and your own unaddressed insecurity. Fix it. It is destroying you, not me or anybody else, just you. That is your responsibility. Many people have helped me to do this job more efficiently than I was previously, before I went on Patreon. For the people who gave $1 a month to some who gave $1,000 a month, I'm grateful to you all, including those who couldn't give in terms of financial support, but they gave their energy of supporting me in bringing about a change. There has to be a near 180 change on many levels of society, as all the previous model has failed on all levels. Some complain about me, and yet none of them would do this work for 5 minutes. They know that deep down. But the comparative mind runs through many people's vessels like a malignant cancer cell. The gist of those who complain is they wish they had the vision, balls and gumption to do what I do, but never had the drive or the vision to do so. So rather than trying to elevate themselves into a similar position, they take the easy way out and try and drag their target of envy down to their level. This is why, as a collective, we all fail. Do you not see that? Everyone dragging each other down means we all end up at the bottom. Like war, an eye for an eye, and we all end up blind. How is that progressive? Is that being human? This show is about harsh truth reality, and it is harsh. It has to be, because we've all gorged on bullshittery all our lives. This show is about elevating us all. And I mean all. And many of our members have complained to me that I don't give myself enough credit. Yes, I see that. But then that's putting me on a pedestal. The drive for me is we're all on the pedestal, not just the one. The one is replicating the old system. The old system created for us has failed. But it was created for us because we didn't take responsibility to create a system for ourselves. And if people think playing the old movie over and over again like Groundhog Day will bring change, you're as deluded as they come. Stuck in the programs and the programming of non-creative thinking, and let's all play bots of copy and repeat. Is that being human? For source sakes, wake up. Education, government, health, charity, finance, war and military, class structure, culture, religion and businesses have all failed. And failed spectacularly. Not as spectacular of what was known as the order, but nonetheless if all failed. To the few who really knew what has gone on this planet, we knew it was all designed to fail is why. Are we really that stupid to keep repeating failed old models? Or do we analyse each section and come up with a solution of a better way for the first time in 110,000 years at least? That is the task we all face going forward. Our past legacy is not pretty, and people can carry on projecting at others. The reality is they are projecting at themselves. It's the mirror again. And this is why you are seeing so many in public, alt and social media accusing others of doing what they have done or participated in themselves. Oops. Their own lack of humanity prevents them from seeing what the observer sees. The problem is you. But sadly, you're not alone in that thinking. It is a pandemic within society. Cassandra said, "We have told you the truth." And even the few amongst you relaying the truth are dismissed and ridiculed to a point of exasperation. That is a fact. For the people who believe in Jesus, what did his followers or the people do to protect him? Nothing. Radomir and Mary Magdalene. Again, nothing, but a very few who tried to protect them. Anna in the 1500s. Again, the peoples did nothing. Well, actually they did. They stood up and cheered in the square as she was burnt alive by the Catholic Church for daring to teach the truth. Fact. Is that being human? All people who stand up for the real truth get treated the same way. Denigrated, abused, threats of violence, their lives destroyed trying to help the all. That is the price people pay for trying to help you. Kim and I have gone to great lengths to help the all, and that is what we got in return for doing so. Shane Naruna, Randy Morgans, Alan James as well. Think about that for a while. You can't blame any other organisation for doing that. It's the people. Humanity as a collective who did and does that. And what is worse is your own friends and family do the most damage. Is that being human? Hi all. What is human? Have we defined it? Like, what will life be like in a better world? Too few have defined it. What does it mean? What does it entail? How will we go about it? How will we achieve it? Do you want to achieve it? Do we want to achieve it? Is there a plan? We have a plan. But do you have a plan? Or are you too content for others to make a plan for you, which is exactly what transpired in the old model, is it not? Where is your plan? Where are your solutions? Why is there a propensity to only bring problems or faults with others? Pushing others into making a plan for you is dissolving your own responsibility. So when the few only back the plan and it fails, people can then point fingers at those who failed. But that is the illusion. A plan fails as the all didn't participate in it to make it work. If the all participate in it, any plan has a better chance of prevailing. But people fight over being the leader, their ideas are better than yours, or they want to control the plan and or the narrative. For an example of that, look in our own THI state and country groups. It's no different to the politicians. Too busy arguing over pedantics and control, self-serving agendas, rather than coming to a common consensus and solutions. You can't deny it. That happened. Awake are no better than sleepers in that mode. Why? Because the you hasn't addressed the self problems. Low self-esteem or confidence, ego imbalance, and the comparative and competitive mindsets are the ills in us all. These are the reasons behind our collective continuing failure in life. You are responsible for that change. If you don't, and you end up going in a group setting, you then trigger others to jump back to the old model way. Then it becomes a loop, a hamster wheel of repeated and repetitive failure mindsets. The change is you. You are the change. It's symbiotic and infectious. Like attracts like. You can attract negative, which is the subset of humanity now. Or you can be and attract positive, higher vibrational energies. The choice is yours. Are you going to create change and be different? Or say you will be creating change, but run the same failed old model program? Because there are too few who are aware of what's going on within them or around them, what you're seeing now is people, they essentially have become vacant, empty shells. Vessels whose programming ran out and failed. And there's no one to tell them what to do now. So panic ensues. And this is what we are all witnessing currently. They are like a child's first time on a bicycle, waiting for a parent to push them along. Thrashing about with no direction, life whizzing past them, the majority of which they are completely oblivious to. Look around you. Nothing works. People are going nuts. Behaviour and demeanours get more bizarre by the day. Hey, let's all eat babies to save the planet. Eat humans to stop climate change. Sounds like an off-world restaurant, that to me. But they warned you all of this back in 1991. The movie Silence of the Lambs. You didn't think that was about entertainment, did you? I recently said fact is fiction and fiction is fact. Do you understand that concept now? Most people just thought that woman saying let's eat babies was a joke. It's not. It's implanting the seed in people's psyche. From eating babies to sexually molesting children at any age. They are programming you to accept it. And as they know most people ignore everything they do, they get away with it. The few that challenge it then becomes targets by internet warriors, some of which are paid to do so, or coerced into doing so by the fact that the authorities have dirt on them and are using that as a leverage against them. Who are you? Some will reply, I am me. But what is you? Have you defined what you is? Are you the body, the spirit, the soul, the mind? Do you realize a body without a spirit dies in organic humans? It is the primary cause of death in the sleep. The spirit didn't make it out of the astral level, was attacked and consumed by the energy harvesters contained within that realm. Science won't tell you that. Neither will your doctor, psychologist, or hospital. They just say it's unexplainable. It's not. It's clearly explainable, but who wants to hear it? A new chapter of what it means to be human will have to be defined and rewritten going forward. All cultures are culpable and responsible for this current mess. Don't believe me? Here's a small reminder based on the collective, not the individuals. White people, based in greed, all about the self, walk around with fake avatars as the real person. Have a serious alcohol abuse problem, have numbers of white people within elite circles with vast wealth, none of which is shared amongst their own people. Your history is false. Black people in America and Africa. Lots of ill-gotten gains from drugs, gun running, prostitution, none of which is shared within your own community, creating ghettos, high levels of violence and deaths between your own people, trading your own people as slaves long before the Europeans arrived. Your history is false. Tribal groups, again, involved in clandestine money-making schemes, plus oil and casinos, and yet none of it is given to your own people. Forced into living in shacks and ramshackle reservations, forcing their own people to work as slave labour on the reservations. You are stated to be in tune with Mother Nature, and yet drill right through her to harvest bacteria poop for monetary gain. That is not being in tune with nature. Stated to be in touch with the spirit world and promote psychedelic concoctions that puts people in grave danger because you are ignorant of the facts. Fake shamans with less than a year's training, all designed to make money, none of which is shared with their own people. Your history is false also. India and that region of Asia. You run a caste system even to this day. That was blamed on the Dutch and the British, and yet you still persist with it 72 years later. Is it the Raj or the Ra? 8 of the top 10 richest people are Indian. Yet do they share amongst their own people? Like all of the groups, the answer is no. Forced marriages, forcing children into marriages, making out Buddha and Hinduism is based on your culture. It's not. It's fake. The Rus tried to teach you a better way. You failed. 1/3 of the world's hunger problem is in India alone. 7,000 die each day in India from hunger. So much for your Buddha and Shiva teachings being about love and consideration. Your history is false also. Australia, New Zealand, the group who sold humanity out 16,500 years ago for weapons against a local tribe. The Aboriginal group, also corrupt, gaining back their lands only to sell it on to developers, create oil fields, none of which the proceeds goes back to their own people. Your history is false also. Hispanic peoples, like the black population involved in clandestine money programs against your own people, using them as slaves and patsies, involved in drugs, plundering, trafficking, child sex-related programs, and in Central America, child ritual programs. None of the proceeds goes back to your own people. Your history is false also. The Middle East, riddled with the same criminality as above, add in religious fervorism, and you have a cocktail of violence, death and destruction. Your history is more fake than the rest combined. Vast quantities of minerals, treasures and artifacts, the proceeds of which are not shared with your own people either. You can't even share the land. Chinese and Japan, again riddled with gang warfare, generating vast profits off their own people, again not shared amongst their own people. Even in Hong Kong, there's been an incredible surge in wealth in recent years. Did they share it? No. Pol Pot, Chairman Mao, and many other leaders in that country murdered millions of Chinese people over a difference of opinion. Yakuza and triad gangs assembled vast wealth. Again, none of it shared with their own people. The world has 838 million people undernourished. And yet we have 1.6 billion overweight, of which 742 million are obese. That in and of itself shows a lack of sharing. Need, not greed. People say there is no money, and yet so far this year, $316 billion has been spent on illegal drugs alone. It's all about priorities, isn't it? The role of the archetype mother is to care for the children. Yet to date this year, there has been 33.5 million abortions globally. You can make excuses for a portion of those aborted births, but nowhere near that figure. Two million people to date this year have died of alcohol abuse. Can afford to buy alcohol, which is not a basic in life, but not feed the millions starving around the world. All a classic example of greed, not need, of looking after the self and not the all. Millions poured into the UN and charities globally. The figures I looked up was for 2017. It was estimated that $402 billion was given to charity for various causes, from children to care, health, malnutrition, animal welfare, etc. And yet not one statistic has shown any improvement in those areas. Not one. We had Live Aid and vast billions were given to the African people. Did it improve one iota? Are they all fed? No. Just another slush fund for greedy, self-serving bastards is what it is. Charity CEOs on $400,000 a year plus. Those people are not interested in charity, only serving themselves. As an example, my salary for the People's Club was set at $50,000 a year. Like I said, need, not greed. So we ask the question again, what is human? Is this section a fair example of being human? Many will dismiss it, a common theme. Many will react badly to it, again, a common theme. And a few will look at themselves and go, you know what? All of that is the truth. We have failed each other badly. In the old system way, the people had one role in a caring plot put forward by the policymakers. They repeated it over and over again. And like bots, we copied and repeated it over and over again. By being lazy-minded and lacking critical thinking. That one role was called reaction. The order had a new solution, so they then created the problem to push forward their solution. We, the people, provided the reaction time and time again. They wanted war in the Middle East. They fed the Western world a story, people reacted to it, and off to war we went. To those that disagreed with it at the time, this next line does not apply to you. Those that went along with it believe in fake news. You are partially responsible for the deaths of 1.8 million Iraqis alone, along with 6,500 Americans. That's not fair, people will cry. It was the politicians. But you voted for them. You left them to make decisions for you. You are just as responsible for the actions of your country as anybody else. Going forward, we must all see the problems, generate the right reaction of a goal to fix it, then come up with the solutions to solve the problem. All people, not just politicians. They are the equivalent of the gladiator arenas in Rome. We are the spectators, and you throw people into the lion's den to get savaged. Sitting there cheering as they get ripped to shreds, not realising the reason those people are getting shredded is because the people didn't take responsibility. It's always someone else's problem. No. That problem is you. Millionaires and billionaires. Is that being human? Vulture capitalism. Is that being human? Child traffickers. Is that being human? Militaries awarding badges for killing people. Is that being human? Spending more on military and weapons than food or health. Is that being human? Religious people confessing to be all holy and God-loving, yet rape their communities, traffic children, mentally, physically and sexually abuse them. Is that being human? Creating wars of my God's better than your God. Is that being human? Many will blame the ancestors, and there is some justification in that narrative. But we, this last 2 generations, have all been in the timeline of the greatest jump in knowledge this current civilization has seen via the internet. And what has changed from a collective standpoint? Ignorance back then was easily controlled and passed on to the masses. Ignorance now is a choice that all of you bear responsibility for. Are you part of the problem or part of the solution? Will you ask or demand change, or will you be the change? Will you be mired in fear and victimhood programs, or take responsibility and shine like a beacon? Part 3 will be for the latter. Hi all, and welcome back to the final piece of tonight's show. We'll start off again. So what is human? Our record outlined to date is not too pretty a picture, is it? In the fake book written by controlling elites men, not by God or source, it states, "Let us create man in our image." Now, I have gone on record to state that book was written about the Anunnaki groups and their offspring. They all carried the mark of the Nephilim. From Melchizedek to Genghis Khan, Cohen, to the Indian gods, to Noah, as did Noah's offspring Shem and Ham. All it was said that they had a coat of armour when born, described as scaly skin, and no, it wasn't eczema or psoriasis, it was reptile skin. Many have interpreted the term "let us create man in our image." Too few ask, who is us and what is our? I thought it was said there was only one God who made us. Are there more than one? But many took that statement as a sign that they made man literally. They didn't. They, the gods, fake ones at that, set about turning man into their image. We were not like them. Via mind control and low vibrational frequency traits, divide and conquer, and hierarchy all came from them. Now they are gone and can no longer interfere on the levels previously. There will always be some who wish to continue that program. We have enough humans who are as psychotic as their leaders were. What are we going to do to create man in a new image, a new light? We have an opportunity to forge our own path for the first time in history, without interference. Do we like our current image? Labelled as savages by some, labelled as low intelligence by others. Is that what we wish to be labelled by? Or will the collective stand up and finally take some responsibility for the mess this world is in? Come together and forge a better path. Whilst they created the image, like bots, we followed it. When a little circumspect reflection of yourself and the world around you could have easily changed this abomination a long time ago. We failed. THI has been on a journey of correcting the past ills and exposing the hidden world too few could see and even less believed. What made us different is we pointed the fingers not just at those who hurt, controlled or damaged us, but at the mirror and back towards us, and what our role was in it. You can't create solutions by looking at only half of the problem. That is why this world is in a mess. Too few see the bigger picture. Too few realise there's a bigger picture, never mind see it. Too few critical think or analyse, and the ones that do analyse largely do it for negative purposes, via think tank groups. Think stupid groups, more like it. Too many are reminiscent of the children in kindergarten class, listening to the teacher read a book to them, or worse, George Bush Jr. All just swallowed it up and regurgitated it ad nauseum. Only the few asked the questions of its validity or whether it was true or not. And adults are no different to those children. The children had an excuse. They were learning the world and were relatively new to it. Adults don't have that excuse. You chose to be a bot, listen and repeat. That is not being human. That is a machine. Overall, I am pleased at how many of you in the group have embraced the message and gone on to make better changes in your life and those around you. It's arduous, I know, that more than you all. Truth comes at a very heavy cost to those delivering it on this planet. And the least anyone can do is support those who are. Yet we see several examples of those mired in their own shit, projecting it onto others. Do we want a world that throws shit everywhere and creates a massive stink? Or do we take responsibility for ourselves and create a much cleaner world where the stink is in the minority, not the majority? Many of you have took up the mantle and changed yourself, your outlook, your own image, and some have gone on to help others to do the same. This group has taken many members off long-term pharmaceutical drugs, other drugs, illegal or otherwise, alcohol abuse, victimhood programs, religious programs, cycles of abuse programs. We've made giant strides in this area. Many have written to me and said their whole lives have changed since being in THI. People from all over the world have never even met me, all stating the show turned their life around. And yet we've all been targeted for doing so. Why is that? Is that being human? They target you not because you are weak, but because you are strong. Never forget that. They target you not because you have external strength, but inner strength. Never forget that. They target you not because you are stupid, but because you have more intelligence than them. Never forget that. They target you not because you don't care, but because you do. Never forget that. They target you not because you have low vibration, but a higher vibration. Never forget that. Remember where you were head and heart-wise before THI, and see and feel your own development. No low vibrational person can take that away from you. Never forget that either. I brought forward a vision of how to be, but you delivered it. And the low vibrationals can't take that away from you either. They are lost and stuck in their own world, and their program has ran out. They have no idea what to do, and so they revert back to type of those who created the image for them. The hue in human has three meanings. Higher universal. The Sumerian and Anunnaki term hue means serpent. In Sanskrit, it means dragon. Which is it to be, humanity? Dragon Man? We had an example of the Dragon Guardians failing last week. Serpent Man, worshipped by the Catholic Church, or higher universal man. That choice now rests solely in all of your hands. Which of the three will you become? No masks to hide behind now. Relatively no cabal, no Illuminati, no ETs or NT groups, no global martial law, another hidden group decimated this week. Cloaked technologies destroyed or revealed. No psychotic AI, no simulation, no matrix. And the top order on this planet decimated down to a relatively few psychopaths. Only fear, threats, and a lack of responsibility keeps the illusion that the old order is still in control. The reality is, they're not. There are no more excuses. You are on your own now to create and be creative. Be free or stay in your own enslavement. Are you mind or heart-based? Real or fake? It's all out in the open now. And the frequencies are telling the real truth. Not the lies you spew out or have been fed and absorbed as fact. Disclosure, people cry. You've already had it. That is why you know of it. The question is now, what next? Do we carry on not caring? Carry on not sharing? Carry on in their image or create our own image? That image we create needs to be an almost 180 turn on what went on before that failed. We failed. Now is the time for a new way, a different image, a progressive change and a drive to take this world of children into a progressive, flourishing, adult-based species. The whispers in your ears are getting stronger as the reconnection to the higher self bonds closer and closer. But will you listen? Are you waiting for the event? Or have you realized yet you are the event? We end the show with the question we started with. What is human? Now, with a blank slate, it and we becomes what you make it. Choose wisely, and for sour's sakes, learn to be nice to the all. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.